Good afternoon and welcome to the Tonya Escabel Real Estate Show. Tonya Escabel here every Saturday from noon to 1 with my co-host Kim Hollingshead with Hollingshead & Associates. Hello. We have been passionate about helping educate our consumers and our listeners on how to build wealth through real estate. So today I'm going to kind of turn the mic on Kim, and she has no idea because I'm just opening up. I'm going to turn the mic on her, and we're going to talk about everything about Kim today, her business, her life, her awards, and just about title. I think a lot of times people take title for like just, it's in my contract, I'm just going to sign it. But I always say you have the right to shop for title. And it is so important to make sure you do have a good title company. And I would recommend not just using whoever says is in your contract. Make sure that you have a title company and an attorney that is focused on protecting your interest. I say that from being in this business for 29 years, and I have had different closings at different title companies that have not went out, have not turned out in my best benefit. I did not cough the whole time off the air. Look. So you have a right to your title company, but with that being said, Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me again. I love being a part of your show.
So tell our listeners a little bit about you and just like when you moved here, where you came from, what inspired you to grow up and be an awesome real estate attorney and help so many consumers get the keys at their closing.
Okay. Well, I am originally from Huntsville, Alabama. I grew up in Korea. My mom's Korean. My dad was in the military, of course. It's your classic love story. And she moved to the United States. I was born in El Paso, and we kind of moved all over the place. But I call Huntsville my hometown. And I've been here since 2001 and graduated from David Lipscomb University. That's how old I am. It was David Lipscomb at the time. Now it's just Lipscomb. Mm-hmm. Yes. And very, very proud graduate of that school. It was a great school, and I'm still friends with so many people that I went to college with. It's just an awesome place. And so then when I graduated from college, it was, I honestly did not know any better. And I just picked up the phone book and just started calling lawyers and ran across an attorney's name, Jim Vanderpool, called the office and said, "Hi, my name is Kim. I just graduated from college, and I would love to work for an attorney. I'm looking for a job, and I was wondering if you had any positions available." And he was like, yeah, we're looking for someone to answer the phone. I really like the way that you are on the phone. I can't believe you just called me. Like, can I send you my resume? Mm-hmm. Okay. I honestly did not know that people didn't always do that. It's hysterical.
So how old were you at that time?
24.
24. Okay.
Yes. I was a late bloomer.
And did you, as a child, we all dream about, hey, I want to grow up and be XYZ. Did you always think you would grow up and want to be an attorney?
I did.
Okay.
I did kind of always think that. So you would
run around with your friends.
Yeah.
Like I was always the teacher, and I would put them all in sit around, and I would be the one teaching and writing on the chalkboard.
Really?
So you were the one that put them in the courtroom and was like, I'm going to be an attorney.
Well, my kindergarten report card, the teacher reported back to my mom that Kimberly is just a little bit bossy. I read that back in my report card, and I was like, a leader, you mean?
Not bossy, a leader. Yes.
But yeah, I think I always kind of had like that, dream of wearing a suit and working on Wall Street or being in a courtroom or, something like that. Yeah. I did realize, kind of a little bit into my career that I love working with families. Like I nannied in college. That was my favorite job I ever did. Mm-hmm. But I also was a cocktail waitress at one point and waited tables at a lot of different places. I mean, I worked through school, I didn't just go to college. So all that work experience taught me that I'm really good at handling a lot of things on my plate at once. I love interacting with people. I love talking to a lot of different kinds of people. And so kind of the idea of like sitting in a room and just working on documents all day, I knew that wasn't really going to be it for me. I kind of knew I was going to do something different. So, and I don't like a lot of confrontation. I'm not afraid of confrontation, but I don't like it on a daily basis. So I knew litigation wasn't going to be it. So I kind of knew when I graduated from college that I was going to go to law school, but it was going to be more on the business track.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. And then I fell into real estate very luckily. And I love
so
it.
that's why you fell into the real estate side as an attorney.
Yeah.
So just for our listeners, we know you do closings and you do them amazing. Your team is awesome. Kay is so good.
She's so awesome.
She's so efficient. From a listener standpoint, yes, they have a choice to choose who they're going to do their closing with. What other services do you offer on the real estate side?
Yeah, so we do commercial and residential.
Okay.
I do work with developers I also will assist them with, offloading a development if maybe they're not interested in proceeding with something, or bringing a buyer to the table, finding something for somebody, just because, we're connected in that world. And then, writing up contracts, leases. I will assist clients through some larger commercial transactions. If they come to me and say, hey, I want to do a JV for a project, to build an office building.
Joint venture.
A joint venture to build an office building or something. Well, then I'll assist that client and guide them all the way through that process, all the way until, even writing the final leases. And some lender representation, I've done that in the past. But we really mostly like to work with buyers and sellers directly. Residential closings are and will always be my absolute favorite. Because like I said before, I love working with families.
Yes.
It's my favorite.
It's so fun to see them get their new home.
Yes.
And that's what I love about social media, because now everyone's posting pictures of them at the closing table and getting their keys or in front of their new home. I am a preferred lender for Regent Homes and also Vaseline, but they're actually starting to post pictures of people that just sign a contract
that's great.
inside the model homes and stuff. So
that's awesome.
that just makes it exciting to see their big smiles.
Yes.
One thing that I know that I get a lot of questions about is 1031 exchange. So if someone's listening right now, wants to understand that.
Yeah, what do they need to know?
Starting out as
basics?
an investor.
Yeah, so you're going to pay capital gains taxes on the sale of any real estate. So that's the general rule, is that, the federal government taxes income. The exception to that rule is the home that you live in. So a lot of times we think of it
2
kind
or
of
3
differently.
years?
Well, as long as you lived in the home at least 2 out of the past 5 years, you're not going to pay any capital gains taxes. Of course, because the government's expectation is that you're going to take that money and roll it into your next home. So the idea is you're just kind of deferring, right? The money's just rolling over from property to property. Also, because it's the American dream is to own a home. We promote home ownership. Real estate is a huge driving force, the number one for the economy. So we do everything we can, right, to promote home ownership here, and it's for the benefit of families that they buy a home rather than rent. So we like to get families into houses. It's just overall, for the good of the public, right?
Yes.
Then, but the general rule really is that you pay taxes on any money that you earn. So the capital gains tax rate on the sale of investment properties is going to be 15 to 18%, but you can defer the payment of those taxes. So that's a misconception, is that sometimes people think you're never going to pay taxes on that money. Oh, you can avoid the payment of taxes. It's not really avoiding, it's really deferring. But you can defer the payment of those taxes by rolling it into another investment property. That's a like-kind exchange.
And that's the 1099 exchange.
Or the 1031 exchange. Yes.
1031. Okay.
And so it's the 1030, the like kind exchange. And
so it has to be investment to investment.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be from a house. It could be like a house or an RV.
Really?
It doesn't have to, it just has to be like kind. And the IRS has
could it be residential
definition.
to commercial? Let's say.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Zoning wise, if something is different when you sell something.
Right.
Okay.
But
and what's your time period? Is it 60 or 90 days? I've heard two different things.
Yeah. So you have to identify the replacement property within 45 days.
Okay.
but you do not have to close on it for 180 days. However, there's also a little thing called a reverse 1031 exchange where, like, let's say that you went ahead and you sold that property, you can actually identify and defer, roll the income over into another property kind of after the fact. It's a reverse 1031 exchange. I think it just has to be done in that same taxable year. Now, I'm not I'm not a CPA. I'm not allowed to give any tax advice. I'm not a certified tax attorney or anything like that.
Right.
But just for purposes of the real estate transaction, that's just kind of your basic information. You do have to work with a QI, qualified intermediary, and we will set all of that up for the client and make sure that all of the QI's requirements and the IRS's requirements are met at the table.
Got you. Okay.
That's our role.
So if you're just now tuning in, you're listening to the Tonya Escobel Real Estate Show. Kim Hollingshead and Associates here, and we're learning all about her knowledge, where she came from, and stay tuned because I have a question for her about 1031 exchanges.
Okay.
And I want to give some live scenarios out because I just continue to hear people like, how do I do that? I want to invest in property. What does that look like? And you did a great job explaining that, but I've got some more questions for you. So stay tuned. You're listening to the Tonya Escobel Real Estate Show right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome back to the Tonya Escobel Real Estate Show. Tonya Escobel here every Saturday from noon to 1, the original real estate show right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And I am having so much fun in today's show because I have turned the mic on to my co-host. And this show is all about Kim Hollingshead, Hollingshead and Associates, real estate attorney, does an amazing job with our clients. Amazing job at whatever she does. She has helped me in so many different ways. She's helping me with my campaign. She does, I don't even have to think about the closings of my clients because that is just seamless. She has a wonderful team.
Thank you.
Closed every time, on time. And then also she has helped me with some nonprofit, Changing Generations Through Christ, to get that filed.
Yes.
And putting prayer over that. We've not officially launched it in the public, but it helped me at least get that first step because sometimes it's really challenging to get that first step. So if you're just tuning in, I just wanted to kind of let you know what our show is about today. And we've been talking about 1031 exchange. I know I said 1099 because I'm thinking income loan officer brain. And she's like, no, Tonya, it's 1031.
I knew where you were going with that.
So I have a question that so in talking about 1031 exchanges, I get a lot of questions about that. And I'm not a CPA. I'm not an attorney. I mean, I know loans, 1099 example. If you're 1099 income and less than 1 year, that could be a problem. But anyway, 1031 exchanges is something that a lot of investors talk to us about. And if I have a residential property, let's just say I'm personally on the loan title and I sell that property, can I do a 1031 since I bought it without having anything legally filed or closing it in a certain name?
Oh, you mean like if it's in your name individually?
Yes,
And you're
so I
saying, does it have to be in an LLC or in the name of a business entity of some sort? No, yeah, you can do a 1031 yourself.
Okay, so there's nothing that has to be at the initial closing to be able to do a 1031. I think that's a misconception for a lot of people.
They think that, well, if you're going to be doing a 1031 from one LLC, it does need to go to the same LLC.
Okay.
Yes.
But personal name to another personal?
Yeah, you can do personal
Fine.
to personal.
What
You don't
about
have to form a
personal
business.
name to an LLC?
I think in limited circumstances that might pass.
Okay, but it's better to keep it on the same.
Yeah. But I'm not a
the way.
tax attorney, so don't take my
Yes,
word on that.
yes.
Always call your accountant.
Always call your accountant.
Yes, we're not allowed to give tax
And
advice.
Dr. Friday is on the show today too, in a couple hours. So
Really?
they can always listen to Dr. Friday.
Nice.
She does my taxes, so she keeps
Really?
me. Yes, she keeps me on check.
Call her and ask her.
I'm her hardest client ever. But no, she is great. But that was my thing. So we bought a piece of property a year ago in January, and it is in my personal name, and me and my son are on title. And when we sell that, I want to roll it into a 1031. So that's why I was asking that question, because
you're part of the proceeds.
yes, part of the proceeds. And so that was the reason I was asking that, because I felt like a lot of people feel like that you have to have something in place when you initially
Like
purchase
before
the
you do
property.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
so
can just
so we can roll it.
Yeah, roll it over.
And you told us.
And defer, and you're just deferring.
You're deferring the tax. You're going to pay it at some point.
Yeah, at some point you're going to pay it. And I think the idea is that you keep the money in the real estate, from property to property to property, so that you continue to make money. You're making more money. And then by the time that you go to pay the taxes, you've made,
Yes, it's more than paid for itself.
Yes,
throughout the years.
That's the idea.
Okay, so my next question for you is...
You're just like putting me in the hot seat over here.
I like it. Because it's not a hot seat, because you're just a wealth of knowledge.
Bring it, Tonya.
You are a wealth of knowledge. Okay, so when it comes to commercial real estate, is there any difference in, I know there's financing difference, but is there any difference when it comes to your side of the transaction from a title standpoint?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So depending on the size of the transaction, sometimes we want to take a look at the appraisal. You would never, your title company will never really ask you for a copy of the appraisal on a residential.
Correct.
But the reason is because that appraisal is going to confirm a lot of the information, especially if it's like for a development and we don't know exactly what this parcel of land is going to eventually build. And then it just helps us to confirm on our end what endorsements may be required. So endorsements are kind of like additional coverage on a title insurance policy that you can pay for in addition to just the regular premium. So let's say that the appraisal's based on a certain type of zoning. Well, we need to make sure that their zoning give a endorsement to ensure an access point to the property, for instance, right? That may be, sometimes they want endorsement for utilities. Yeah. So you would see these types of endorsements would never be seen on a residential transaction. The searches are more expensive. They're more involved to do a search. The coverage amounts are typically higher. So you are going to typically run every single one of those commercial transactions through your underwriter and have your state counsel actually at the insurance company actually give their seal of approval on that transaction as well. Okay. The attorney is going to be much more involved on a commercial closing rather than a residential closing, which is typically something that like the senior settlement officer will be in charge of reviewing that unless there's something special. Yeah.
So on a residential, I mean, we can close a loan in 2 weeks to 30 days. Commercial, what are you looking at closing timeline for expectation of someone that maybe is negotiating a commercial contract?
Yeah, because the search just takes a little bit longer to come in, and because the attorney needs to have, eyes set on it and review everything, I would say probably the soonest you're going to get something closed is maybe like, a week, 2 weeks in Davidson County would be the absolute soonest. Typically, it's going to be, 30 days. A lot of times, though, because the lender has more requirements on that transaction before they are comfortable issuing their loan, right? They have a lot of loan conditions on a commercial transaction that they don't on residential. Then usually your timelines are much longer on those. Okay. Yeah.
And from a commercial standpoint, if I'm a listener out there, I know you had a wonderful guest that was on our show
the Trumans?
Months ago. Yes. To help people. I mean, they are big about educating for people that want to do multifamily or commercial buildings. So talk a little bit about that and the relationship.
So the Trumans own Acel Real Estate, which is commercial. They only do strictly commercial. And Jana is a former appraiser herself. And then they have a fantastic team of commercial agents, commercial brokers. They're awesome. They not only broker just commercial buildings, commercial real estate, they do the leasing as well, but they actually sell businesses. So they have this whole other part of their practice, which is really delving deep into the numbers of a business. So like, you could purchase the entire business and the building that it's in with them.
So I think we need to have them back on the show.
I agree.
Because from your perspective, we see residential, we still have a shortage of inventory.
Huge.
What about on the commercial side?
Yes. So it just depends on the product.
Is it over-concentrated or do we have a shortage?
I think Jana would probably tell you that commercial is really, really strong across the entire country and not just here. During COVID, for a period of time, there was a surplus in office, right? I think you still see there's more office, more retail available now than there was pre-COVID. But office is coming back strong. As you know, a lot of people are going back to work. So I think everything in commercial is really leveled out. That commercial development is still very much needed everywhere. Struggle there is that and you're going to see a shortage. Really, it's going to come about probably in the next couple of years because the banks stopped lending on commercial development. So that shortage is, they really put the brakes on multifamily and commercial.
So that was going to be my next question. See how smart you are? Yes, about banks and lenders, because I only do residential. I don't do commercial lending. So that is something that I've been challenged with because I've always been able to refer to my local banker that I've worked with for over 20 years.
Yes.
That has always done my lines of credit, construction loans, commercial loans. And there is a shortage. And so I'd love to get your thoughts on, because I know you work with a lot of different banks and lenders. We got to take a break now, but I would love to come back and get your thoughts on what are some of the challenges and do we see that opening up pretty soon? So stay tuned. You're listening to the Tonya Escobar Real Estate Show right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome back to the Tonya Escobar Real Estate Show. Tonya Escobar here every Saturday from noon to 1. Kim Hollingshead, Hollingshead & Associate, my co-host, and we are continuing to talk about her strengths and talents, about her company, about 1031 exchanges. I'm not going to say 1099, Kim, again. I've got it now. That is on income underwriting lender mindset. But no, giving us some great information about 1031 exchange. I do get a lot of questions about 1031 exchanges, especially from investors. And so I'm so glad that you're taking your time today to kind of expand our knowledge around that. We just talked about commercial property, how much longer it takes to close a commercial property, the due diligence from the title side that has to be done, also the lending side. And what I started seeing I've always done residential mortgages, so I don't do commercial, but I always referred to my local banker. But I started to see going into last fall, fourth quarter, that banks were pulling away from commercial lending. And Kim, obviously a title company that does residential and commercial. Before we went to the break, I just wanted her to kind of share, what do you think is behind that? Because I thought when they did it last November, I think it was October, November, banks started calling me saying, hey, I just want you to know these changes are coming. And now we're sitting here in July and it's still the same, that they're not opening up lending. So I asked my banker, loan officer that I've known for over 20 years, I was like, if you don't book a loan, how are you getting paid?
So, and they're not.
So that's they do get a salary where we don't get a salary. We're 100% commission on the mortgage banking residential side. But that's a huge impact on that entire industry.
It is.
When it comes to compensation, 40-year high inflation happening. So what are you hearing and seeing from the banks that you work with? Are they going to start to loosen up, or we're still going to stay tight right now?
Yeah, it's going to be tight for a minute, I think, until next year, right? 2024, I think, is a projection. I'm hearing Q1, maybe Q2 of 2024, they're going to start loosening up on the actual real estate and opening those buckets back up, maybe. But right now,
talk about the buckets, because I've just learned that recently, being in the business for 29 years.
What does that mean? All the little buckets of lending that they do?
Yes.
So, banks love their deposit dollars, and they make great money on lending. Obviously, they earn interest on loans, but they have a lot of different types of loans. So we're in our little tunnel vision of real estate loans, but we've got SBA loans, equipment, lines of credit, right? Tons of different
credit
products.
Cards, auto loans.
Cards, yes, auto loans. They loan on all, and we're talking about commercial lending here, that they loan on all kinds of stuff. And so the real estate, they're all considered a little different bucket, and they locked up real estate and just kind of shut that one bucket down. Not all banks many banks did, made that choice to do that. And, you know, I think it's just the uncertainty that, you know, that they saw in that area. They were maybe had too many loans out in that area, you know, because 2020 was gangbusters for real estate. And so just depending on the bank and depending on how they're capitalized, they have to have a certain amount and a certain limit inside of each category. Is really all that it amounts to.
So diversity.
Yeah.
If that bucket gets full, they're just going to stop it.
Yeah.
Until either people sell and it opens it back up, or
yeah, sure. And insurance companies
refinances it out of that bank to another bank.
Yeah. And insurance companies do the same thing. So, like, I don't know if you guys heard, but Nationwide's not issuing any new policies for the whole rest of the year on any kind of on residential. So, you know, but it's because that bucket has now been filled up, right? So,
Interesting. Did not know that.
Yeah.
About Nationwide.
Yeah. They just kind of shut that valve off because they have to. They're a different kind of company, and they have to make sure that obviously they're going to be around for a long time, right? It's in the public interest.
So Nationwide stopped doing that with residential insurance. We're talking mainly about banks and commercial lending. And commercial lending, that is construction loans. That is, so I think a lot of listeners think, oh, well, I have a residential home, I'm going to build, but it's still a construction loan that is considered in our world a commercial loan, because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac does not offer those type of loans. And so that is where we've seen the challenge of people trying to build their home and trying to get financing
trying to get financing for it can be challenging right now.
Yeah, and put more money down. So I only know probably maybe about 5 banks that I know that are lending right now.
Wow.
On the commercial realm. But that's my limits. Like I said, I do residential mortgages, and so that's just my observation when it comes to
I agree. Yeah, it's
what I'm seeing out there of how it's changed. So that's interesting that it's going to be first quarter maybe. That will be almost a year and 5 months of kind of saying, no, we're not going to do that.
Yep.
Where does that give opportunity to our listeners?
Well, you know, I would say, obviously there's going to be a shortage in commercial. So if you're an investor and you want to invest in some property, I think long-term commercial is going to be a safe bet.
Okay.
So yeah, I would definitely give Jana and Brian a call.
Okay. That's why we got to have them back on the show sooner than later,
so
right?
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, literally the entire time I was just like taking notes and was just, yes. They're a book of knowledge.
They
and
are.
That's what I love. It was not, when we had them on the show, they were not trying to sell anyone on anything. It was just more of an educational base on the opportunity of how to build wealth. And I know Brian does more of the multifamily side of it. And that was so intriguing to me. So when we say multifamily, that could be an 8-unit duplex. It could be a 10-unit. It could be a 20-unit apartment, a 30-unit apartment. And it, you know, I told my husband, we're supposed to go have supper. We never had our supper together.
Oh, yeah. We need to call them and get that going.
Yes. So I was telling Danny about it, and I really wanted him to meet them, because one of the things that Brian said is if you follow the plan, then typically you can be within 7 to 8 years living on residual income from your investments.
Yes.
And who does not want that?
Yes.
I don't care what age you're at. I mean, my daughter's 30, my son's 33. I'm 52, my husband's 60. Of course, we want that at some point. But I think that that's great for anyone. If you can start and learn. That was what I thought was amazing. So I have taught my kids how to build wealth through residential real estate. I have not taught them about the commercial side of that. And I wish that I had someone when I was in my 20s teach me that.
Yes.
And that's what I loved about them when they were on the show. They do have a teaching spirit, teaching heart, to be able to do that. And so, you can stop by. They do a learning series. I want to say it's once a month where you just pop into their brokerage and just the public can just walk in and they're going to teach you what you need to know about investing in commercial real estate. Yeah.
And every week it's a different expert coming in to talk about a different area of doing so.
And what I thought was really great with them is not one, the wealth of knowledge that they have, but two, they know the lenders that are lending money in commercial.
They're very well connected.
They're very well connected. Three, a lot of people think that, oh, I have to have this much money for a down payment because of a misconception. It's kind of like someone...
Huge misconception.
It's kind of like someone does a residential loan and they think they got to have 20% down to where you've got down payment assistance, or you can do 3%, 3.5%. Same with the commercial. The other thing I think, like during that discovery with them and just learning and being on the residential side, is some people think, well, I would love to buy an apartment, 25 units, 30 units, but how do I qualify for that as far as income ratio?
Right.
And basically you count the rent payments toward the income to be able to buy that. So I think that's a misconception too, that a lot of people think when it comes to commercial and how do I buy multifamily.
Right.
I just don't make enough money. I have to be a millionaire, and that's really not the case. And so what they shared with us is like stepping stones into that. So they've kind of started with someone owning, one or two investment properties, and then they take those proceeds and roll it into maybe a 10 unit, maybe a 25 unit. And you don't have to just qualify on your W-2 tax return income, because you get income from the appraiser rents, projected rents.
The math is just different.
It is totally different. Yeah. So I just want to encourage listeners out there, because that is a misconception, kind of like it is on the residential side, that you have to have this big down payment, or how can I afford this? And if you buy a building that is fully rented right now, and you get the credit for that to help your debt to income ratio, that's where Brian will sit down and break down those numbers, which really makes really good sense.
I mean, as you know, if there's ever a shortage in a market, it means that the prices are not coming down. So, so when we're sitting here talking about, oh, there's going to be a shortage, well, there's already a shortage in residential. We all feel the crunch of that. But it's still a good time to buy. I'm buying now. I mean, it would be one thing if I was on the radio telling everybody, well, now is still a good time to buy, and I wasn't willing to do so myself. But it is, you know why? Because I was able to negotiate better terms and conditions on this contract. And I know that rates are going to come down soon. So, I'm going ahead and taking that leap now with buying this home that I really, really love, because I know prices are going to continue to be stable for a long time. And, I think that goes to show that I'm willing to do it, or not willing, but I'm eager to do it myself.
Yeah.
And the same is true on the commercial side. Yeah. Prices are not going to come down. Rents and leases are not going to come down. So you might as well just jump in now, even though rates may be a little higher than, 3%, but still.
You're getting big discounts right now from builders and developers and sellers that you weren't getting a year ago.
Right.
And you have to factor that in, because I have some builders and developers that are giving $20,000 to $30,000 incentives. So even though the rate is higher than it was, you still are getting your payment might be the same just because of the discounts on the sales price of the home right now. So if you'd like to get some more information, give us a call, 615-300-0794, 615-300-0794. Also, you can go follow us on social media, Tonya Escabel, meet Tonya on Instagram. Kim, what are your social media
It is Kim Hollingshead ESQ on Instagram. Find me on Facebook, TikTok, my website, and of course YouTube.
You're on TikTok.
I am.
Wow, that's nice.
I'm learning the
All
ways.
right, stay tuned. You're listening to the Tonya Escabel Real Estate Show. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for listening to the Tonya Escabel Real Estate Show here every Saturday from noon to 1. My co-host is here with me today, Kim Hollingshead, Hollingshead & Associate, and I'm so excited because I got to turn the mic on her. So she's doing most of the talking today. Oh. And just providing so much information when it comes to her expertise as an attorney, what she adds value to as a title company, and then also just her input on seeing, from a title company standpoint, they work with multiple lenders throughout Middle Tennessee. I only do residential, so she's bringing a great knowledge when it comes to commercial, other things that are happening in the industry. And we have our last segment.
Yes.
And
well, I would love to share a little news clip.
Because you got an award.
Yes, well, we
So
got
tell
an
us all about it.
award. So we've received a few of these, but I just thought I would share with your listeners today that we got a Fraud Stopper award from our underwriter because we stopped wire fraud at the company, and that was completely. Kay is awesome. We have really particular policies and procedures when it comes to wires because there's so much fraud out there. And so in this story, I'll tell this story to everybody. We had a buyer who received an email. It looked like it came from us. It looked like our signature line. It really looked like it came from Hollingshead Title. It looked like Emily sent it to them. But the client sort of stopped and was like, they're saying that they've changed the wiring instructions and I need to download the new wiring instructions. But what the hacker was not prepared for was that our wiring instructions they're secured. They come over secured. The client has to download them. And then they're missing the last 4 digits of the account number. So you have to call the office to get the last 4 digits. Now, yes, of course, it's great because we don't have our account number on the internet. But really, the reason why we do that is to prompt a conversation. We want for the settlement officer to talk to the client about wire fraud and what to be on the lookout for. And one of the things that Kay always makes sure to share is that we will never change our wiring instructions in the middle of a transaction. If you receive a suspicious email that's changing wiring instructions, call me immediately. Do not send any money to anybody. Don't send us money early. We're never going to ask you to send money to us, early. And we are going to call you to confirm and call us to confirm the amount. Get on the phone with me before the closing and let's have another conversation before you send any money. So when this lady received the email, Kay, of course she calls because she's doing what she was told to do.
Yes.
And Kay says, nope, there's no way. That was not us, and catches the fraud.
Wow.
Now, here's the thing. How did the hacker know, right? How did the hacker get Emily's contact information, our email, and spoof it? The realtor was hacked. So the realtor's email account was hacked. 2 other clients of this realtor were impacted. So this hacker actually emailed 3 different clients. One of the emails came to our client. We stopped the fraud. The other 2, one of them for sure did not get stopped. And money was sent to, it was like $17,000 or $18,000 was sent to a hacker's account, and the money was gone.
Yeah.
The money
and
was
there's nothing
gone.
you can do.
Yeah, I mean, because the title company is not responsible for where you send money. The realtor's not responsible, but of course, we advise.
You can report it and go through
right.
the proper
If you
procedures.
catch it, yeah, and if you catch it early enough, you oftentimes the Fed can, the FBI and the Fed, they can stop, the money from being applied to the account, right? I mean, there's a reason why we don't do international wires. We have all these safety protocols when it comes to it, and the reason is because, like I tell, and we have it, splashed all over the place, that protecting your money is our number one job.
Yeah. And I think a lot of consumers don't understand how big fraud is when it comes to purchase and title transactions right now.
Huge.
Yes.
Millions of dollars.
Because if you don't have that scripting on the front end, then I wouldn't know any different if I wasn't in the industry. So you've got to think about, people that maybe do one transaction every 3 to 5 years.
Right. And they don't know, they just see the email. I mean, they don't know us. So they see the email. They don't know what looks suspicious or not. I mean, how would they know? So, that's really the reason why we leave the last 4 digits off, is because we have to have that conversation. Yeah. And I love in the office overhearing, a client call and, okay, now wait a minute. Before you send any money, let's just confirm the amount. I want to make sure that it matches what I have. We really discourage clients from just sending us willy-nilly whatever they think that we should have for the closing and then relying on us to refund them
the check,
with a check, because it just increases the likelihood of fraud. We want it, let us verify those numbers with you. And then again, always call your title company to confirm, always, every single time.
Before you send money.
Before
100%.
you send any money, you call. We have other protocols built into our process as well to protect our clients' money. That, things like the bank has to call us to verify the amount, the payee, the account number, the routing number. They call us, a live person calls our office and has a discussion with somebody in our staff. So it's not all on the internet.
Yeah.
Which helps to really, that's what allows me to sleep at night, because.
Well, I think one of the things, just if you're just now tuning into the show, you're listening to the Tonya Escobar Real Estate Show, you can always call us off the air, 615-300-0794. But in our opening show, we talked about the value of a title company, and you have a choice for a title company. I know from my standpoint, thank goodness, I've not had fraud happen. But that is huge. It is the number one thing that is happening in our industry right now when it comes for hackers that are stealing down payments. I had one client, was not your title company, of course, but it was like over $180,000 that they wired. And I wasn't the lender. It was just the title company at the time that I was talking to was sharing how this industry is so unaware of how these hackers are so aggressive and very, like you said, took all the information. It looked like it was coming from your company, your letterhead, everything. And you got to think about, it is on the internet, your letterhead. Your employees are on the internet. So it's easy for hackers to do it.
Yes.
But I love the fact that you actually have a conversation with them and let them know, please, if you get wiring instructions that are different or you have to call us to be able to complete that wire transfer is amazing, because a lot of companies have not taken that into place. So when it goes back to picking your title company, wire fraud's a huge idea right now, a huge, horrible thing that is happening right now. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is I have actually had title companies that have closed and recorded things incorrectly. And that can hurt you as well. And then I have to go back. And if I would have sold that property, luckily I owned both of the properties, so I was able to correct the deeds. But do not just listen to who is in your contract. And I think that for years, doing this for 29 years, everyone shops a rate for a mortgage. It is what it is, right? You're going to talk to different lenders. You're going to see different quotes online. It's kind of been the perception of we don't really think about shopping for title. And I think because of the environment of what we just talked about, with fraud being a huge concern right now and not having the right systems and procedures in place, no one wants to wire their down payment money and lose it. And also making sure it's recorded properly too, and that you're protected. So I do think it is something that our consumers need to be aware of, that they have a right to choose their title company. And I know a lot of times realtors and builders are our number one referral sources. Title company, usually they don't even really talk about it. It's just written in the contract. And I know that I want to educate our consumers and wanted to take this entire show today just to talk about what you do as a title company, how you run your business, how you are different from others that are out there, and just maybe give some insight that if you are writing a contract, please know you have a choice to negotiate who you're using for a title company, just like you have a choice of who you use as a lender or a homeowner's insurance company.
And the listeners are free to call the office at 615-549-1933. Just ask to speak with me, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that they may have about their own particular real estate transaction. Or if they just want me to review something for them, I'm glad to just take a quick look at it for them as well.
So that's awesome. All right. Any last thoughts about the market that you're seeing? So here we are in July. Oh my gosh, can you believe that we're already in July?
It's hot.
What are you hearing from realtors and builders and consumers about our market going into third and fourth quarter?
It's been really tough on the mortgage industry. Real estate has been down, significantly, over 50%, right? There are not nearly as many listings, although listings are starting to creep up a little bit, but not nearly as much inventory on the market. People are having a hard time finding something that they really love. And, there's still a lot of confusion about interest rates and how that because prices are not coming down. So there is a misconception out there that it's just nothing's affordable. I can't afford. Well, it's not going to get more affordable. You know, prices are going to continue to go up. So, but there is a serious slowdown. But for mortgages, it's been very difficult on the mortgage industry. Sure. And I think I wish that there was more done to protect loan officers here in Tennessee. I'm going to use this opportunity to just, speak on this for a moment. But
board member of Mortgage Bankers Association. Here she goes.
I sit on the board of Mortgage Bankers because I see this play out every single day with the trigger marketing, online companies providing misleading information to buyers, confusing borrowers about loans, but also a lot of out-of-state loan officers doing loans here in the state, which there's nothing wrong with you not being in Tennessee and doing a loan. But if you're doing a purchase transaction, wouldn't it be great for you to have those local connections to places like THDA or the Housing Fund, organizations that are local, that are helping local buyers get into homes with down payment assistance. There are connections that they simply don't have. So if you are, real estate is local. It is the ultimate buy local product, right? It is so local. If you're buying or selling here in Tennessee, I encourage you to use a Tennessee loan officer. Support the loan officers here in the state. Many of them, their business has gone down 80, 90%. And I don't know anybody who can take a sudden 80 or 90% pay cut. And also, they're W-2 employees. You have to remember that. They're not 1099s. They can't just write off all their expenses. So they're W-2 employees, and they've taken massive pay cuts. So if you are going to be buying in the next year,
support local.
Support your local mortgage loan officer, please. We really need Tennessee loans to stay here in this state of Tennessee.
Yeah, that's great. And if you want more information, call Tonya Escobar, 615-300-0794 as a local.
Here. The master.
Yeah, since 1997 as a local.
The closing
helping
queen.
Thousands of families in Middle Tennessee. But yes, you are correct about that. And I'm so thankful that you stepped up and served on the board, because I know it takes a lot of time. It's a volunteer position. But it is important to be able to have people like you that bring that insight to the board and encourages the industry.
Yeah, it's an underrepresented industry.
It is.
And so we do our best to help.
Yeah. So on that topic, optoutprescreen.com. Optoutprescreen.com. I'm going to say it a third time if you're driving. Optoutprescreen.com. That will basically, before you do a mortgage application, go and opt out so you don't get solicited by all the online companies. I know a lot of mortgage companies are doing what we call soft pulls in the industry, which Cross Country can do those too, versus a hard pull. Yeah. So when you do a hard pull, the actual credit bureaus sell your information to the online internet companies that you were just talking about. So optoutprescreen.com is what I recommend people to do. If you want to shop, let it be your choice. Don't get, one of my clients got over 80 phone calls in a week.
Well, and then these guys are out of state.
Right,
there's no accountability. Yes. We're closing on time.
And
you're doing a purchase,
confusing on interest rate quotes.
Yeah.
They're not quoting the discount points, that they're quoting a rate that is not disclosing all the discount points. I also go to Google current mortgage rates. There's a site that I have that I love. You can actually drop down without filling out all their stuff. That will literally tell you, and I send this to my consumers, of where the average rate is with no discount points right now. And we're in the 7s. Now, most people are locking at 6, 6.5, but they're paying discount points, or the seller or builder are. It is what it is. I mean, I've got some builders that are running promotions right now. We just locked in a client this week at 4.99% on an FHA. But that is because the builder is willing to buy down that interest rate. So if the average rate is 7%, how much money do you think it costs to buy down to 4.99? It's almost $30,000.
Yeah.
And it's not costing the consumer the builders doing that. So
Love it.
if you would like to get some more information and just kind of find out some opportunities that we have with some of our preferred builders, or just find out what your purchasing power is and how we can help you, give us a call, 615-300-0794, 615-300-0794. You can also go to our website, TonyaEscabel.com, for a financing standpoint. And Kim, again, I want our listeners to know, please pick the right title company. And Kim has helped me with many transactions, and just appreciate her heart, her servant heart in serving in this industry. So how do they get in touch with you?
Visit the website, hollingsheadtitle.com. Of course, all the social media platforms, or call the office, 615-549-1933.
All right, everyone, have a blessed week, and be sure and tune in next week to the Tonya Escabel Real Estate Show right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.